Last year, China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region attracted a staggering 265 million tourists with its stunning scenery, rich culture, and amazing food. But for Washington, that is a massive problem. You see, the US has been pushing a fake genocide myth for the past few years, and that lie is being torn down piece by piece every time an American tourist visits and sees the place with their own eyes. So what do the elites on Capitol Hill do? Well, now they're trying to curb travel and stop Americans finding out the truth for themselves. Today I'll explain, and we'll also chat with Fernando, who has travelled to Xinjiang extensively. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Morham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. When Xinjiang and the rest of China was locked off from the outside world due to COVID restrictions, Washington decided to use that golden opportunity to push their fake Uyghur genocide myth, trying to convince the world that China was killing off the Uyghur minority. With the borders closed and no way for ordinary Westerners to visit and find out the truth for themselves, it was the perfect timing. But now China's borders are open again to the outside world, even more so than before COVID, with a bunch of European countries now able to visit without a visa. And they've been taking up that opportunity in massive numbers. In fact, just last year, 265 million tourists flocked to Xinjiang to enjoy its natural beauty, amazing food, and rich culture. One of those people is Colombian national Fernando Munoz Bernal, who spent 5 whole months freely driving around the massive region, visiting every corner. We'll chat with Fernando very shortly. Another huge change has thrown Washington's fake Uyghur genocide into laughable territory, and that is the hideous situation going on right now in Gaza. Every day, ordinary Westerners are able to see the atrocious images of real death and suffering at the hands of a government that is arguably aiming to wipe out the population. Not a single image of a bombed building or dead kids or hideous torture has come from Xinjiang, yet Washington wants its citizens to believe there is massive genocide going on there right now. And now foreign tourists can visit Xinjiang and see for themselves. No special permit or pass is required to visit the region, despite what Western media would have you believe. When you arrive in China, you can just buy a plane or train ticket or jump in your car like Fernando did and go visit for yourself. This is not good for Washington. They know that more ordinary Americans visiting Xinjiang will mean they can no longer maintain their fake Uyghur genocide myth. So now, what are they doing? Well, you guessed it. They're trying to stop Americans from being able to visit the region to begin with. 2 US representatives, Republican Chris Smith and Democrat Jeff Berkley, you see, China-hating is a bipartisan effort in Washington, are proposing lifting the travel advisory level for Xinjiang to level 4, the very highest level, which demands American business people and tourists do not travel to that area. Isn't that interesting? If there really was a massive genocide of the people of Xinjiang, wouldn't the US government want more people to witness it? And since there's not a single image or video of genocide or even pain and suffering out of Xinjiang since this lie began, despite there being millions and millions of smartphones in operation there every single day, wouldn't it be good for American tourists to go in the hope that maybe they can become the first to document this hideous genocide of the Uyghur people? Well, we all know why. It's because there is not and never was a genocide going on in Xinjiang, and Washington knows that free travel there for ordinary American citizens will inevitably bring a swift end to their genocide hopes. Now all they can do is limit American freedoms even further by telling tourists, do not travel to Xinjiang. Let's take a quick look at the representatives' hilarious reasoning. This one's funny. They say, the PRC wants transparency it can control, not the type that exposes and starts the process of accountability. Tourism whitewashes the atrocities committed against Uyghurs and other minorities and puts a happy face on genocide in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Isn't that just mind-boggling? This is real mental gymnastics going on right here. They're claiming that letting American tourists freely travel around Xinjiang is transparency that China can control, and not the type that exposes and starts accountability. LOL. Honestly, if ever you wanted a modern-day example of Orwellian doublespeak, this is it right here. On the contrary, free tourism to Xinjiang does exactly what the United States fears. It shines a light on the lies and meddling of Washington and exposes that falling empire for what it is. Now let's have a quick chat with Fernando. He's a Colombian entrepreneur and he's lived in China for a whopping 23 years. Fernando, welcome to the show. Now you've travelled the length and breadth of Xinjiang, including recently spending a massive 5 months driving across it in your RV. Now I just want to quickly show the viewers a map so they can get an idea of the scale we're talking about here. So this here is China, obviously, and then this region to the west is the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. And if we zoom in a little closer here, we can see the dozens and dozens of places that you not only visited but also spent quite a lot of time at over nearly half a year. So I wanted to ask you, why is it, do you think then, that the experiences of people like yourself are brushed aside by Western media and governments for this urban genocide myth started by people who have literally never stepped foot in Xinjiang before?
Well, first of all, Andy, thank you for having me on your show. The answer to that question is only one. They don't want the evidence that I can provide. When you travel to the region and you're able to present, juxtapose as I do, the things that they say and the things that are true on the ground, then they don't want to deal with you. They don't want to face you. They don't want to they have no explanation. So this is why they go ahead and just forget that you exist. They block you or they just ignore you. So it's a little bit disheartening that they get to do that with impunity. They get to just lie about Xinjiang with impunity. But the idea is to present to people this black and white, what they say, what I see, what they say, what it really is. So that's why they don't face it. They can't deal with the evidence that is presented.
Yeah, and I see now, this evidence is quickly falling apart. So we're seeing US politicians on both sides of the aisle pushing for this national travel advisory for Xinjiang to be lifted to the highest level, level 4, which basically means do not travel to the region. Those two US representatives behind the call say that tourism to Xinjiang serves as a conduit for repression there and facilitates the destruction and appropriation of their heritage and identity. Now that all sounds a bit fishy to me. So what do you think is the real reason behind this specific travel ban proposal?
I think there's a couple of levels to this. The first one is, if people travel to Xinjiang, they will see that the narrative is not true. They will see that they've been lied to. If they impose this level 4, the different factors that they use to determine that is, okay, how much crime is there terrorism, are there kidnappings, or this kind of things. If you think about it, none of this really applies to Xinjiang. So what to do about it? They're just coming out of this idea that if we stop people from going there, then we will continue to create this narrative that is entirely false. So that's the main reason. They don't want the truth to be known. And with China opening so much to foreigners to come here, Xinjiang is a very popular destination for travel. So it's just a matter of time before people actually get to see that there is no genocide in Xinjiang. There's no cultural genocide, that the languages are spoken, that the culture, as you were saying, the heritage is maintained. And this is very interesting, if I may take a second. When they say, when they take people on tours, they show them all these pre-rehearsed dances and arrangements, yeah, that is true. That's actually promotion of tourism. But the fact that there are institutes and schools and centers that teach the art, the music, the dance, that's actually an effort by the government to preserve the culture. Now, here's the thing. When you are able to do as I did, to just get off the touristy path and go to places, as you showed in the map, which is, people don't go there, journalists don't go there. You actually get to see authentic expressions of culture. And that's what I tried to say. Both exist. One is the one that is presented for officials and whatnot, yeah? And the other one is the one that you can encounter just by walking. And then again, that becomes one of the issues that a lot of journalists and pundits and politicians have with my content. They just will not engage with me because it's too inconvenient.
Yeah, I mean, for them, Xinjiang is completely black and white, but as you've shown, it's very colourful. So I wanted to know, as someone who's travelled the place extensively, can you share a couple of quick hints or tips for anyone who might be hoping to visit in the future?
Yeah, I think I would have to say a couple of things. Number one, be mindful of the season, because there are some areas of Xinjiang that are closed during winter, and I mean, they're only open for 3 or 4 months a year, only in summer because of snow and whatnot. So if you wanted to visit certain areas in the north, or the famous Yuku, which is the most scenic road I've ever been in my life. You have to check the dates, right? You want to be there midsummer, and of course it's going to be packed with people. 260 million tourists went last year, so you got to check that. The other thing that you need to determine is, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to the north, where the scenery is just absolutely breathtaking? It's just, I'll tell you, Sanlimu, this lake, is just right now my favorite place in the world, in the earth, and I've traveled quite a lot. And the other thing to consider is distances. What do I mean by distances is, if you go to Urumqi, if you go to Kashgar, if you go to Hotan, if you go to Korla, all these places, well, you can move around by taxi, you can just get on a subway in Urumqi, things like that, but then you're in that place. But now when you want to explore, because one city is 500 kilometers from the other, 230 kilometers